came much sooner than I expected. One moment, I was sitting in front of my computer after another sleepless night. The next, everything went dark. I thought my life had ended. But when I opened my eyes again, I found myself kneeling on a massive execution platform. Heavy chains bound my hands and feet. Thousands of people surrounded me. Their cheers shook the entire capital. Kill the Demon King. Execute him. The hero has saved the world. I slowly blinked. What the hell? Before I could understand anything, a cold mechanical voice echoed inside my head. Villain system binding successful. Host successfully selected. I froze. A system. The voice continued. Host's mission is to complete every villain mission. After completing the main story, host may return to the original world. So I really transmigrated. I let out a helpless sigh. Of all people, why did I have to become the villain? Before I could ask another question, another notification appeared. Loading previous host's memories. Suddenly, countless memories flooded into my mind. Wars, demons, kingdoms, magic, and finally, the previous owner of this body. I stared blankly into space. You've got to be kidding me. The body I had inherited belonged to the Demon King, the strongest existence in the world. A level 100 supreme demon, the ruler of the demon realm. But, instead of conquering kingdoms, this idiot had fallen hopelessly in love with the human empire's princess. He followed her everywhere, sent flowers, rare jewels, luxury dresses, perfumes, handwritten love letters, golden necklaces, diamond rings, magical accessories, even spirit beasts as gifts, and every single time, she rejected him. Covered my face. What kind of demon king chases a girl around? The villain is supposed to kidnap the princess, not become her biggest fan. Current cultivation, level 100. My eyes widened. Level 100? I immediately opened my status. Sure enough, the number 100 shone brightly above my profile. Curious, I looked toward the hero standing proudly nearby. Level 45. I scanned the execution ground. The strongest general, level 68. The human emperor, level 70. Nobody, not a single person, had crossed level 70. I frowned. If I'm this strong, then how did I get captured? The system calmly explained. The previous host voluntarily sealed his demonic aura while pursuing the princess. Without the aura, his automatic defense disappeared. The hero used the sacred demon sealing weapon, which suppresses demonic abilities for 1 hour. The previous host surrendered without resistance. I almost laughed. So, the strongest being in the world, lost because he turned his own defenses off. For love, I genuinely didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I looked at the system, then activate my demonic aura. Confirmed. The next second, the entire execution platform exploded with terrifying pressure. I kicked the ground with all my strength. Boom! The execution platform shattered beneath my feet as I shot into the sky. The hero immediately tried to chase after me. Unfortunately, he was far too slow. Within seconds, the entire capital had become nothing more than a tiny dot beneath me. Only then did I finally let out a sigh of relief. I survived! Before I could relax, the familiar mechanical voice echoed inside my head. Mission completed. Host has successfully escaped the human empire. Reward 100 villain points. A blue panel appeared before my eyes. Villain points plus 100. I looked at the screen. Villain points. What exactly are they used for? The system answered immediately. For my use. I almost lost control and fell from the sky. Your use? What do you mean your use? No wonder he ended up here. The system interrupted my thoughts. The previous host failed the villain story. Host has been selected to continue the story. Current main mission. Escape the human empire and return to the demon palace. I smiled. Now that's a mission I can understand. I have absolutely no interest in romance. If becoming the greatest villain lets me return home, then I'll gladly play that role. A thought suddenly crossed my mind. If I'm continuing the story, where's my beginner gift pack? The system answered almost instantly. Beginner gift pack has already been claimed by the previous host. Excuse me. I almost stood up from pure disbelief. You mean the tutorial rewards were already used? Affirmative. I stared at the blue panel. This system is completely useless. Fine. Then restart my life. The system replied without emotion. Request denied. There is no restart. If host refuses to continue, host's soul will be permanently erased.
Réincarnation impossible.
A cold chill ran down my spine. This thing is actually cruel. I sighed. So I have no choice. Then tell me, what did the previous host spend the beginner rewards on? Check inventory. A glowing blue inventory window appeared before me. I opened it. Flowers, perfumes, luxury dresses, diamond necklaces, golden bracelets, romantic books, love letters, magical roses, rare chocolates, even matching engagement rings. I looked at the sky. Brother, what exactly were you trying to accomplish? Not a single weapon, not a single healing potion, not one useful artifact. Everything had been spent chasing the princess. I slowly closed the inventory. The previous host was beyond saving. I looked back at the system. So how am I supposed to survive? The system answered. The previous host activated the Supreme Cultivation card. The system calmly replied, I require villain points to operate. I frowned. So, you're making me risk my life, just so you can collect points? Correct. I stared at the blue screen in disbelief. You're unbelievable. You never even asked whether I wanted to help you. The system remained silent. After a few seconds, another blue panel suddenly appeared. New mission. Return to the Demon Palace. I looked at the panel. Are you seriously ignoring my question? The system finally answered. Questions unrelated to my objective will not be answered. I clenched my fists. You really are the most selfish system I've ever seen. No response. Instead, the mission panel flashed once more. This time, a second line slowly appeared beneath it. Failure penalty. Soul erasure. My expression instantly changed. Fine. You win. I pointed toward the endless horizon. Then at least tell me which direction the Demon Palace is. Silence. Hello. Nothing. You useless piece of junk. Still, nothing. I gritted my teeth. You haven't helped me even once. The system finally responded. Respect the system. There are countless souls in existence. Replacing the host is possible. A chill ran down my spine. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. From that moment on, I wisely decided to stop arguing. At least for now. With no other choice, I simply picked a direction and started flying. 1 day passed. Then another. Then another. 3 days. 3 entire days. Do you know how boring it is to fly in a straight line for 72 hours? Mountains, forests, rivers, clouds. Repeat. By the end, even the birds had started looking familiar. I was beginning to question every decision that had led me to this point. Finally, after 3 days of non-stop flying, I landed on top of a mountain, completely exhausted. Never again. I stretched my sore shoulders. Then, out of boredom, I casually opened my inventory. Maybe there was at least something useful hidden among the previous host's ridiculous collection. Flowers, perfume, love letters, necklaces, bracelets. I continued scrolling. Then suddenly, my finger stopped. Teleportation scroll? I blinked. I quickly picked it up. High-grade spatial teleportation scroll. Locked destination, Demon Palace. I stood there in complete silence. Slowly, very slowly, I turned toward the system. You knew this was here. Affirmative. The corner of my eye twitched. Then why didn't you tell me? The system answered without the slightest emotion. It is not my responsibility to search your inventory. The host should have checked more carefully. I clenched my fists so tightly they almost cracked. For 3 days. I flew. For 3 whole days. The system remained silent. I wanted to argue. I really did. But after spending enough time with this thing, I had already learned one lesson. Arguing with the system was completely pointless. I tore open the teleportation scroll. Space around me immediately began to twist. A brilliant magic circle appeared beneath my feet. The scenery blurred. In the blink of an eye, I was no longer standing on the lonely mountain. Instead, a magnificent black palace stretched before my eyes. Gigantic obsidian walls pierced the heavens. Towering crimson spires radiated an overwhelming sense of majesty. An enormous gate engraved with ancient demonic runes slowly came into view. I let out a long breath. So, this is my home. And without realizing it, a strange feeling of anticipation rose within me as I took my first step toward the Demon Palace. The moment the teleportation ended, a magnificent palace stood before me. For a moment, I simply stood there. The palace was enormous. Towering black walls stretched toward the horizon. Countless crimson flags fluttered in the wind. Hundreds of heavily armed demon guards patrolled every corner. Massive statues of ancient demon kings stood proudly on both sides of the entrance. The entire palace radiated authority. I couldn't help smiling. So, this is the palace of the strongest being in the world, worthy of a demon king. While I was admiring the palace, one of the guards standing on the wall suddenly frowned. Captain, I think someone is approaching. The captain narrowed his eyes. A lone figure slowly walked toward the palace. Long black hair, crimson robes.
En overwhelming aura.
The captain's eyes widened. No way. His Majesty. His voice echoed through the entrance. Every guard immediately looked toward me. For a brief second, the entire palace became silent. Then, His Majesty has returned. Every guard immediately knelt on one knee. Welcome back, Your Majesty. Seeing dozens of elite warriors bow before me, I couldn't help feeling a little pleased. Not bad. At least the previous host had earned some respect. I nodded slightly before walking through the enormous gates. The moment I entered the palace, an elderly man hurried toward me. His white hair was slightly messy. His breathing was uneven, as if he had rushed here without stopping. Despite his old age, his eyes were filled with concern. He bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, there is something you need to know." I looked at him. Before I could ask who he was, I spoke to the system. "Who is he?" Thankfully, the system actually answered. Identity confirmed. Chief Butler Shin, the person responsible for managing the Demon Palace since the previous Demon King was a child. I nodded slightly. "So, Butler Shin." The old butler looked at me with a worried expression. "Your Majesty, the treasury is nearly empty. We barely have enough gold left to maintain the palace. If this continues, our soldiers won't even receive their salaries." I silently listened. Then, everything suddenly made sense. The previous host hadn't returned to the palace because he missed his people. He came back, only to take more money. Money that was later wasted trying to impress the human princess. I clenched my fists. Seriously? Just how obsessed were you? For the first time, I genuinely felt angry at the previous owner of this body. He hadn't only ruined himself, he had ruined everyone who faithfully served him. I looked back at Butler Shin. His face remained calm, but I could clearly see the exhaustion hidden in his eyes. He wasn't angry. He wasn't blaming me. He was simply worried. Worried about the future of the Demon Kingdom. For some reason, seeing that expression made me feel uncomfortable. In my previous life, no one had ever looked at me with such genuine concern. I smiled slightly. "Uncle Shin." The old butler froze. His eyes widened slightly. "Your Majesty." I looked directly at him. "Don't worry. I didn't come back to take more money. I came back to fix everything." Silence filled the hall. Butler Shin stared at me as if he had heard something impossible. Disbelief, confusion, hope. All three emotions appeared on his face at the same time. He searched my eyes, as if trying to determine whether I was lying. I sighed helplessly. "I'm serious. I know my actions have disappointed all of you, but from today onward, everything will change." The old butler remained silent. It was obvious. He didn't believe me. Honestly, I couldn't blame him. If someone had lied to me 100 times, I wouldn't believe the 101st promise either. I took a deep breath. "Uncle Shin, gather every minister, every commander, and every elder of the Demon Kingdom. I want everyone in the throne room." The old butler hesitated. "May I ask why, Your Majesty?" I looked toward the grand palace halls stretching before me. "Because it's time to solve every problem this kingdom has been suffering from." Without waiting for his reply, I walked toward the throne room. Behind me, Butler Shin quietly watched my back. For the first time in many years, he saw something in the Demon King's eyes that he had never seen before. Determination. After Butler Shin left, I quietly made my way toward the royal court. The closer I got, the louder the voices became. Even before entering, I could hear everyone talking. "His Majesty has returned?" I heard the hero captured him himself. "How did he escape? Do you think he has finally come to his senses?" "Don't be ridiculous. People like him never change. I just hope he doesn't ask for more money. We don't even have enough to pay the soldiers anymore." I stood outside the massive courtroom doors and let out a helpless sigh. Previous host. "Exactly how badly did you ruin your reputation?" The system answered without hesitation. "Extremely." I nodded. "For once, I actually agree with you." The next second, boom, the gigantic doors slowly opened. The entire courtroom instantly became silent. Hundreds of pairs of eyes turned toward me at the same time. Ministers, generals, commanders, elders. Everyone was staring at me. I didn't say a word. I simply walked forward. Step, step, step. Every footstep echoed throughout the silent hall. The atmosphere became heavier with each step I took. Without realizing it, I had stopped suppressing my cultivation. A terrifying demonic pressure naturally spread from my body. The candles around the courtroom flickered violently. Dark energy slowly rolled across the marble floor. Several younger officials instinctively lowered their heads. Some ministers struggled just to remain standing. No one dared to meet my eyes for more than a second. Oops. I forgot this body is a little too strong. I immediately controlled my aura. The pressure lessened. Only then did everyone secretly breathe in relief.
I pretended de hadn't noticed.
Finally, I reached the throne. I slowly turned around and sat down. The moment I did, the entire courtroom became even quieter. I looked at the throne beneath me. So, this is where the strongest being in the world sits every day. Honestly, suited me quite well. I looked at everyone standing below. No one spoke. No one moved. They were all waiting for me, waiting to hear why I had suddenly returned. Curious, I activated the ability the system had rewarded me earlier. Mind reading. The next moment, countless voices echoed inside my head. "Please, let His Majesty have truly changed. We can't survive another year like this. If he asks for money to buy gifts for the human princess again, what do we even do? I'll follow His Majesty no matter what." The treasury is almost empty. Our soldiers still haven't been paid. The border cities are starting to rebel. Please, save the demon kingdom. I slowly looked across the courtroom. Not a single one of them was thinking about themselves. Every thought, every worry, every fear was about the kingdom. For some reason, that made my chest feel a little heavy. I glanced toward Butler Shin. Even he was silently praying. Previous host. You truly had loyal people around you. People who would have followed you to the end. And yet, you ignored all of them. For one girl, I couldn't help shaking my head. You really were hopeless. I took a deep breath. Then, I looked at every minister, every general, every elder, every commander, and smiled slightly. Let's start with one question. Everyone immediately straightened their backs. I rested one arm on the throne. What is the biggest problem facing the demon kingdom right now? The moment those words left my mouth, the entire courtroom froze. No one had expected that question. Not from the demon king they knew, but for me. If I wanted to survive in this world, the first thing I needed to rebuild wasn't the kingdom. It was their trust. The moment I sat on the throne, the entire courtroom became silent. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on me. Honestly, felt good. A small smug smile appeared on my face. So this is what it feels like to be the strongest ruler in the world. Cleared my throat. Tell me, what problems does our demon kingdom currently face? The ministers looked at one another. It seemed none of them had expected that question. After a brief hesitation, an elderly minister stepped forward and bowed. Your Majesty, there are many problems. The biggest one is our military. I frowned. Our military? He nodded. Yes, Majesty. Our military strength has fallen drastically. We have already lost several territories. Neighboring kingdoms have begun occupying our lands. My smile disappeared. I leaned slightly forward. What happened to our army? The minister lowered his head. Our military budget has become too small. We can no longer pay our soldiers properly. We don't even have enough money to purchase new weapons or maintain the old ones. He paused before continuing. The only reason the demon palace still stands untouched is because of the ancient protective formation surrounding it. If not for that, even this palace would have been attacked. I was genuinely shocked. The situation is this bad? Without thinking, I waved my hand. Then increase the military budget. I approve it. The minister looked at me helplessly. Your Majesty, the budget isn't the problem. We simply don't have the money. Before he could continue, another minister suddenly stepped forward. His voice was much colder. Because your Majesty spent almost everything trying to impress the human princess. The entire courtroom became silent again. I felt my face heat up. For the 100th time today, I silently cursed the previous owner of this body. Seriously, could you not have left me even one useful thing? Taking a deep breath, I calmed myself. Forget the past. From today onward, we start over. I looked toward Butler Shin. Uncle Shin, how much money remains in our treasury? Butler Shin slowly stepped forward. Your Majesty, there is only enough to maintain the palace for 1 month. He hesitated before adding, and even that, we cannot allow your Majesty to touch. I blinked. So they still don't trust me. Honestly, I couldn't blame them. The previous host had probably emptied the treasury every time he returned. I smiled helplessly. Don't misunderstand. I'm not asking because I want to spend it. I simply want to know our situation. The atmosphere eased slightly. Then the finance minister spoke again. If we wish to stabilize the kingdom, the first thing we must do is repay our debts. I nodded. How much? The minister answered without changing his expression. 3 billion gold coins. The wine I had just taken into my mouth sprayed straight back into the cup. I coughed violently. Cough, cough. 3 billion. I looked around the courtroom. No one laughed. Apparently, this wasn't a joke. Previous host, I hope wherever your soul is, you're being scolded by your ancestors. Taking another deep breath, I forced myself to calm down. I understand. From today onward, there will be no more foolish spending. I swear before all of you, I will restore the demon kingdom to its former glory. The courtroom fell silent. Everyone stared at me, not because they believed me, but because, for the first time, their king had asked for their opinions. I looked across the hall. So, does anyone have an idea? After a moment, a military minister stepped forward. Your Majesty, the fastest solution is to reclaim our lost territories. Those territories generate most of our taxes and resources. If we recover them, our income will begin increasing immediately. Another commander nodded. But before that, we must recall our generals. I frowned. Our generals? What happened to them? The commander looked embarrassed. They resigned. Why? He hesitated, then answered honestly. When they tried to persuade your Majesty to stop pursuing the human princess, you became furious. You defeated several of them personally, and ordered them never to interfere in matters of your heart again. They left shortly afterward. My throat tightened. For a moment, I genuinely couldn't speak. You idiot! You chased away your own greatest generals. For love. I slowly crushed the crystal wine cup in my hand. Crack. The sound echoed throughout the hall. Everyone instinctively lowered their heads. Not because they feared my anger, but because they thought I was about to explode like before. Instead, I simply took a deep breath. Fine. The past cannot be changed, but the future can. I slowly stood up from the throne. Every eye followed me. For now, our first objective is money. Prepare a complete report. I want the names of every kingdom that occupied our territories. I also want a list of every former general and every commander who left. My eyes slowly swept across the courtroom. Move quickly, because I will personally reclaim everything that belongs to the demon kingdom. A faint smile appeared on my face. Ha ha ha. They enjoyed taking advantage of us while we were weak. Now, it's our turn to collect the debt. The terrifying confidence in my voice echoed throughout the courtroom. For the first time in years, the ministers looked at their king and saw not a lovesick fool, but the demon king they had always hoped would one day return. The moment the meeting ended, the entire palace sprang into action. Ministers hurried out of the throne room carrying documents in their hands. Messengers rushed through the palace corridors. Orders spread throughout the demon kingdom one after another. Some were sent to investigate the kingdoms that had occupied our territories. Others began gathering information about our remaining resources. Within just a few minutes, the once silent demon palace became lively again. Watching everyone work so seriously, I couldn't help but smile. Looks like they really were waiting for the demon king to wake up. Since there was nothing for me to do at the moment, I leaned back against my throne. A maid quietly walked over and placed a cup of hot tea beside me before respectfully leaving. I took a sip. It wasn't bad. Far better than the cheap coffee I used to drink in my previous world. As I enjoyed the peaceful silence, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. System. A familiar blue panel appeared before my eyes. Status. Name, Demon King Azrael. Race. Primordial Demon. Level 100. Villain points 100. Skills. 247. I nearly spat out my tea. 247 skills? What exactly did the previous host learn? Curious, I immediately opened the skill list. The first page alone was enough to leave me speechless. Space manipulation. Demonic domain. Soul suppression. World devouring flames. Primordial regeneration. I kept scrolling. The list seemed endless. Every single skill sounded terrifying. I couldn't help shaking my head. The previous host really was talented. He had everything. The strongest cultivation. The strongest skills. And still managed to lose. I honestly didn't know whether to admire him or laugh at him. Out of curiosity, I opened the inventory. The first thing I saw, flowers. Then, more flowers. Perfume. Love letters. Jewelry. Portraits of the human princess. Even more flowers. I silently closed the inventory. Hopeless. The system calmly replied, confirmed. I sighed. At least we agree on something. About half an hour later, the doors of the throne room suddenly opened. A minister hurried inside before respectfully kneeling. Your Majesty, the investigation is complete. I placed my teacup down. Report. The minister unfolded a large map before me. Several regions were marked with red ink. Your Majesty, the kingdom of Aurelius has occupied most of our western territories. They have also formed an alliance with several neighboring kingdoms. Their objective is to destroy the demon palace. I searched through the memories of the previous host. Aurelius, this king, was one of humanity's strongest experts. The minister continued. If we defeat Aurelius, half of our current problems will disappear. They possess fertile lands, rich mines, and most of our lost tax revenue. I nodded. Good. We'll start with them. The minister's eyes lit up. I'll begin mobilizing the army immediately. It should take around 10 days to prepare the soldiers and supplies. I frowned. 10 days? Yes, Your Majesty. I slowly stood up from the throne. Why would we need 10 days? The minister looked confused. Majesty, I smiled faintly. I'll handle this personally. Before anyone could ask another question, a familiar mechanical voice echoed inside my mind. Mission assigned. Capture the kingdom of Aurelius. Time limit, 2 hours. Reward 1,000 villain points. Failure penalty, soul erasure. Before I could even complain, another notification appeared. Mission accepted. I stared at the floating screen. It accepted the mission by itself again? The system remained silent. I rubbed my forehead. One day, I'm definitely going to settle the score with this system. I looked back at the minister. Prepare a guide. I want someone who knows Aurelius well. As for the army, I smiled confidently. This time, I alone am enough. I looked down from the sky. The kingdom of Aurelius stretched beneath me. magnificent walls, thousands of soldiers, countless flags fluttering in the wind. I smiled. So, this is the kingdom that thought the demon kingdom had fallen. I slowly raised my right hand. Before attacking, I wanted to give them one chance. I spoke calmly. System, send my voice throughout the entire kingdom. Confirmed. The next second, my voice echoed across every city, every street, and every corner of the kingdom. I am the Demon King. I have come to reclaim what belongs to me. To the King of Aurelius. Surrender. Return every territory you stole. Pay compensation for the damage caused. Kneel before the Demon Kingdom. You have 1 minute. Otherwise, I will erase your kingdom. Silence followed. The entire kingdom froze. Then, instead of surrendering, war horns echoed across the capital. Thousands of soldiers rushed toward the city walls. Mages began chanting. Archers prepared their arrows. The king calmly sat upon his throne, as if he wasn't worried at all. I looked at him through my divine senses. Then, I smiled. So, you've made your choice. I slowly raised my hand toward the sky. Black clouds instantly covered the heavens. The sun disappeared. An enormous black magic circle expanded across the sky. Every soldier looked up in horror. What? What is that? The pressure alone forced countless people onto their knees. I calmly spoke. Black magic. Complete erasure. The magic circle glowed. A pillar of black light descended from the heavens. Boom! The earth shook violently. When the light disappeared, the battlefield was empty. Every soldier who had chosen to fight had vanished without leaving behind a single trace. Even I stared silently at what I had done. So this is the power of a level 100 Demon King. A chill ran down my spine. For the first time, I truly understood why the entire world feared this body. I slowly lowered my hand. No wonder. They call me the Demon King. Without another word, I flew toward the royal palace. The remaining guards rushed forward. None of them could even stop me for a second. One after another, they fell. Soon, I pushed open the doors to the royal court. The ministers trembled. The nobles lowered their heads. The king was nowhere to be seen. I calmly walked past them. Then, I sat upon the royal throne. Crossing one leg over the other, I looked toward Butler Shin. Find the king. Bring him before me. Butler Shin bowed. As you command, your majesty. Only a few moments later, the king of Aurelius was dragged into the courtroom. His luxurious robes were covered in dust. The arrogance he once carried had completely disappeared. He was forced onto his knees, directly before me. I looked down at him with an indifferent expression. So, let's talk. The king was forced onto his knees before me. His body trembled uncontrollably. The arrogance he had shown earlier had completely disappeared. He lowered his head and begged, "Why, your majesty? Please spare my life. I was wrong. I'll return everything. I'll never oppose the demon kingdom again." I quietly looked at him. If this had been the previous owner of this body, he probably would have killed him without hesitation. But me, I had a much better idea. Before I could speak, the familiar mechanical voice echoed inside my head. Mission completed. Kingdom of Aurelius captured. Reward 1,000 villain points. I didn't even bother looking at the panel. Those villain points were for the system anyway, not for me. I looked toward Butler Shin and the finance minister. Uncle Shin. Minister. The two of them immediately bowed. Yes, your majesty. I pointed toward the palace outside. Empty the treasury. Take every single gold coin, every weapon, every piece of armor, every valuable resource. Take everything. Leave nothing behind. The minister looked surprised. What about the citizens, your majesty? I shook my head. Don't touch them. We only take what belongs to the royal family. They stole from us first. We're simply taking it back. With interest. Both of them smiled. As you command. They immediately left to carry out my orders. I looked back at the kneeling king. He still thought I was going to kill him. Instead, I slowly stood up. I've changed my mind. The king slowly raised his head. Ashu. I'm not going to kill you. Hope immediately appeared in his eyes. Then, I smiled. But don't misunderstand. This isn't mercy. It's punishment. His smile slowly disappeared. I continued. From today onward, you'll continue living in this palace. You'll continue calling yourself king. But there won't be a single gold coin left. There won't be servants. There won't be luxuries. There won't even be enough money to maintain this palace. You'll watch everything you built slowly crumble before your eyes. I walked down the throne steps until I stood directly in front of him. You'll remain a king, only in name. I leaned closer. And every single day, you'll remember exactly who reduced you to this. The king's face turned pale. His entire body collapsed onto the floor. And no, please, kill me instead. I couldn't help laughing. Ha ha ha. So, you've finally understood. There are punishments. Far worse than death. The system suddenly spoke again. Villainous behavior detected. 500 villain points awarded. Then another notification appeared. Host has helped collect a large amount of villain points. Special reward granted. Celestial binding rope obtained. My eyes widened. A reward. For the first time, the system had actually given me something useful. Please check the item description later. I wanted to inspect it immediately, but I was still in the middle of my campaign. There would be plenty of time after returning. Over the following days, the same scene repeated itself. One kingdom after another. One foolish king after another. They had all taken advantage of the demon kingdom while it was weak. Now, it was time to repay their debts. I reclaimed every lost territory, recovered every stolen mine, took back every trade route, and emptied every royal treasury. As for the kings, I spared every single one of them, not because I was kind, because I wanted them to suffer. I left them sitting in their empty palaces, wearing golden crowns, with absolutely nothing left to rule. Every time I imagined their expressions after realizing they had become kings without wealth, I couldn't help smiling. Ha ha ha. Enjoy your kingdoms. The system never missed an opportunity. Villainous behavior detected. Villain points awarded. Again, and again, and again. By the time my campaign ended, even I had stopped counting how many times that notification appeared. Finally, I returned to the demon palace. This time, everything felt different. The soldiers standing at the gates saluted with pride. The servants smiled as I walked past. The ministers no longer looked hopeless. For the first time since I arrived in this world, the demon kingdom actually felt alive. During the campaign, the system had also rewarded me with another ability. An ability to hear the inner thoughts of anyone I wished. As I walked through the palace corridors, I casually activated it. Immediately, countless voices echoed inside my head. His Majesty really changed. He actually reclaimed all our territories. The treasury is full again. The demon kingdom has hope once more. I knew His Majesty would return to his former glory. Listening to those thoughts, a small smile appeared on my face. For some reason, their happiness made me feel happier than capturing all those kingdoms ever did. A few days later, I was finally able to relax. For the first time since arriving in this world, there wasn't an urgent mission trying to kill me. I leaned back in my chair and stretched lazily. System. A familiar blue panel appeared before my eyes. Remembering the reward I had received during the campaign, I opened my inventory. Among the countless items, a golden rope quietly floated in one corner. I selected it. A description immediately appeared. Celestial binding rope. Grade, divine artifact. Description. A supreme artifact capable of binding any living being whose cultivation has not surpassed the heavenly realm. Once activated, escape is nearly impossible. I read the description twice. Not bad. So it can bind almost anyone. I rubbed my chin. This thing is actually pretty terrifying. Then another thought crossed my mind. Wait. If it can bind anyone, can it bind me too? The system replied without hesitation. Affirmative. I immediately threw the rope back into the inventory. I'll make sure nobody else ever gets their hands on that. Just imagining someone tying up the strongest demon king in the world sent a chill down my spine. Before I could think any further, a familiar notification echoed inside my mind. Main mission progress updated. 30% completed. I smiled. So, I've already finished 30%. Not bad. Then another blue panel appeared. New main mission assigned. Kidnap the human princess. I stared at the screen, then read it again. Excuse me. I frowned. Why would I kidnap her? I've finally managed to convince everyone that I've changed. If I suddenly kidnap the human princess, my own people will think I've become obsessed with her again. Everything I built will be ruined. Before I could complain any further, the system interrupted. Mission accepted. A vein popped on my forehead. I raised a finger. Stop. I already know what's next. Failure penalty. Soul erasure. The system remained silent. I let out a long sigh. This system really has only one line. I buried my face in my hands. Ah, my reputation. I spent days rebuilding it. And now, you want me to kidnap the same princess everyone thinks I was madly in love with. I looked helplessly toward the ceiling. If Butler Shun hears about this, he'll probably think I relapsed. I sighed again. So much hard work. Destroyed by one mission. For the first time since transmigrating into this world, I genuinely wanted to punch the system.